All right, this is going to be a chill cast.
Chill cast. It is a chill day here in
Brought to you
Chattanooga.
by Coca-Cola.
And payday. It is August 19th, 2021. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and we are episode 505.
I'll take your word for it.
505. You didn't even double check my work today, which is could be disastrous. Welcome in. Yeah, it's a rainy, nasty day. We're getting some of the tropical mist, I think is what we're getting from some kind of hurricane or tropical something going around Florida. I think we're getting a little bit of, I think it's called Fred. But we're getting much needed rain because it was getting hot and a little dusty around here, at least in my yard. I was looking for a reason to save on my water bill, and I got it. It's a little bit dreary. Hopefully going to get some sunshine this weekend for all of you racing. Good luck to you. Hope you get out there and have fun, do your best, execute, give out your best effort, and leave the rest. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. You know, you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we appreciate you tuning in and, hey, giving us a shot. We cover it all. We cover triathlon. We cover life. We cover everything in between. We'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. We'll have on the occasional guest. Sometimes we'll dive deep into swim, bike, run specific training podcasts. We have a somewhat mediocre popularity cast called the How to Nuts Suck at Swimming series, which I think we have like 7 of those. People tend to get a kick out of those. We also have a very popular dog cast, which is way back in like the 30s for his first year. We did this. We've been doing it for what, 6 years now? It seems like 6-7 years. Triathlete
It's in our 6th year, I think.
I think our 6th year. Been here for a long time. 505 podcasts is a lot. We come to
twice a week, man.
Yeah, that's a definitely the most consistent thing pretty much ever done in our entire lives. But sometimes we'll go into our Facebook group, which you can search easily and go find Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you in. There's a lot of awesome people in there, a lot of great conversation, especially this time of year when races are compact. There's just a lot going on right now all over. And so you get a lot of questions from beginners, experienced athletes, but feel free to ask questions. Really, there's a lot of awesome people in there that obviously have a range and abilities. So if you want to be part of that community, hop on there. Sometimes we'll use that community specifically to drive the convo of the podcast. We'll do Q&As in there. Mike and I both as best friends, coaches, and athletes ourselves. We work with quite a wide range of athletes from across the globe. I think that's like one of those things that what are you checking are you doing like checking your belly fat?
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
I look over
every once in a while I like to check in.
What's the? We're sitting here and
the
hub is vacant. We're in our studio, which is also our office. And we're actually like kind of dressed up today. We're kind of matching. We both got on like
this is an official.
We've got
podcast.
These like sleek Lululemon logoed C26 logoed shirts that I like them. I like them a lot. Embroidered polos. Like we're flip the shark. We've gone big. I've got on some fairly recent Hurley shorts. You've got on some old navies from like back in like 1990. So you're kind of like going back and forth. We got our feet kicked up on the stools over here, and I look over. And it's like you're doing the fat caliper check on your midsection while I'm trying to do the intro. Like, were you feeling like self-conscious?
No, every once in a while I just check. I do everything by feel. I told all my training's by feel.
Yeah, everything's by feel.
Like, that's about right.
So that's about
5 weeks out.
Yeah, we both just listen. We were both. It's a jury day. It's been a long week. I was mentioning earlier, I don't think I've had a day off of work since before I raced Ohio. And we needed a quick pick-me-up. So we went to Old Faithful. We grabbed a payday and a Coke.
Mine are already gone.
Yours are already gone, but you're holding on to something around the little midsection. But hey, you know what? You look strong to me. You look like you're ready to race. You don't look frail. Yeah, I mean, I think what you got working on the middle is,
that's what I'm saying.
Help you out in the swim.
It helped me out in the swim, and it's going to go right to the appropriate level by race time. Let me tell you, you did not fuck around with getting into that open today.
No,
you went right there.
Man, you said we needed to get down to business today. I was like, hey, you know what? Let's get down to business.
I'm trying to fire this thing up.
Let's rock and roll.
Get the belly fat going.
This is the F-bomb and the fat cast right now because you dropped an early F-bomb before they could even like mellow it out. And you're over here checking your body fat over here with your thumb and looking down and they gave it like the old nod. Like, yeah, it looks about right.
Not bad.
It's not bad for, a month out from Chattanooga. But, hey, you know what? There's never been a better time to ask for reviews. We don't do ads, we don't do sponsors. But hey, if you listen to us for a long time and you feel like it, I mean, come on, throw us a bone. Give us a review. Throwing a 5-star there, show us some love. That's how we find other awesome people to be part of our community. So you can do that for us. You can also go and follow us on Instagram, C26_triathlon. A lot of awesome stuff going on there on the day-to-day. Nothing that Mike and I provide, but we have someone does it for us. And then obviously the rest of the stuff we do is on our website, C26triathlon.com. Listen, we very rarely, we're the opposite of most triathlon podcasts in almost every way, but also this way specifically is that we very rarely touch on current events, and race updates and, things of that nature. But I do think it was interesting. The last, 48 hours have been some significant changes to both the 70.3 World Championships in St. George, but also the Ironman World Championships in Kona. I don't think that one's been official yet. But from what I'm hearing from most sources and what I read in the article last night, and then that's going to be, I think, posted up here in I would say the next 68 hours, that Kona Ironman World Championships are going to be moved to February of next year. In addition to that, the day before that, they're moving it to February.
Didn't they do that last year?
Yeah, and then they moved it to October. I think
I feel like we need a news intro music thing.
I know
for this kind of the current events.
Yeah, current events in the state of triathlon.
Dare I try one of these?
Yeah, try one. See what it says. That didn't work out.
Sebastian Kienle. I'm coming to you
that's your Sebastian
the Crossing Iron podcast is one of the best, and I listen to it all the time here in Germany, and with my friends Jan Frodeno and CC Winovich.
That's Mike's best German accent. So yeah, you might want to work on that. But no, it was that's going to be postponed till February, and then the day before that, this does impact quite a few people. As a lot of people were going to 70.3 Worlds this year in St. George. They announced that it was supposed to be in Taupo, New Zealand next year. That has been basically X'd out. They're not going to have it in New Zealand. They're going to have it back in St. George again next year. But the other biggest thing is that this year St. George was scheduled to be females on Friday and males on Saturday. Obviously, it's in Utah, so they don't do the races on Sunday there. But now they're combining the race to a one-day event, which honestly is kind of a bummer. And I know a lot of people are mostly upset because it really changes their travel plans, because I know a lot of the ladies that raced on Friday are probably looking to get back and fly out on Saturday, so that obviously impacts them in a negative way, housing and travel-wise. The guys probably not so much. They said, something about, the course, but honestly, I think it was just from a lack of participation in the event.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I think they're trying to
begging everybody in the sport to go.
Condensing it to a one-day event. So it could make for a crowded course, but when you look at the fact that, 70 from a professional standpoint, in terms of the eyes and the biggest stars and the best athletes in the sport, for an event that was going to be about 4 weeks pre-Kona, just under 4 weeks or just over, you're going to have quite a few of the pros doing that in their lead up to Kona, some skipping it, some choosing to focus on Kona. But now that Kona's bumped to February, I think you're going to see probably one, if they can get into the U.S., I think one of the most loaded 70.3 professional fields you've ever seen. I think you're gonna have ITU and Olympic distance stars. They're gonna be going. You got all the big names in triathlon, 70.3 distance guys. Then you got the ones that were probably gonna be gearing up, ready to go for Kona, putting in massive on there. Like, listen, we can just go out and crush this, take a paycheck, and go out about our business and maybe take some time off and get ready for Kona in February. So interesting. Go ahead and take over. I got a huge cough coming right now.
Okay, cough it out, man. I do have a question about that, and this may be a silly question, but I assume that how pros have to qualify for Kona, correct? Is that still the deal?
Correct. They qualify or they confirm doing one if they have a rollover from a previous win or a podium or something like that.
So is it the same qualify for 70.3 Worlds, or do they get an automatic slot if they're in Kona and they can all just go now? It's like a free season.
That's a good question, and I'm not sure. They only allow a certain number. I think you have to be ranked at a certain level unless you get a special invite. Kona's the same way. You have to be a former winner. I think you get 5 years to come, and you don't have to or they call it validate. Is basically just by completing not even winning.
It's like an
but
exemption.
basically like completing. Yeah, it's exactly like the Masters. Like golf does the same exact thing. Like I remember back like Miranda Carefrey and Tim O'Donnell, like they both got automatic qualifiers in Kona, and then basically went in Florida to validate for the next year, which in my opinion is smart, right? Because Ironman takes a lot out of you, especially at the professional level. And they basically did Ironman Florida, like just kind of like loafing it, like because all they had to do was finish to quote unquote validate for the next. But they will do special invites, like which I thought was a brilliant move. Ironman World Championships gave out a special invite to the male and female winners of the Olympics to come out, and which to me is it's great marketing. You take the Olympics and people watch that and like, hey, they're also going to come do Kona, which can also be, I think both of them would actually do very, very well at that distance if they actually put the time in. And now that they have an extra, November, December, January, February, they got an extra 4 to 5 months to train for it, and doesn't really interfere with their main focus of the season, which is ITU. You might see Flora Duffy and Christian Blumenfeld be out there. So it's going to be interesting. I really do hope that the 70.3 field is absolutely loaded, but you're going to see a lot of like moving pieces in the professional field, which I understand that, 90% of the people that listen to this podcast don't listen to us for updates in the professional field because we're the opposite of most triathlon podcasts in that way. But I think it's going to be interesting for like a latter part of the year that's already pretty condensed. And are they going to add a pro field to some of these age group only races? Like, hey, I'll be honest, I wish they would add a pro field to Chattanooga, or maybe they will when they announce this again. But I think one of the most interesting pieces about this is the backlog in athletes qualifying for Kona. They gave isn't the right word. They allotted for an insane number of extra Kona slots at some of the races this year that took place. Coeur d'Alene and Lake Placid, the two big ones. I think Lake Placid had 250 slots to go to Kona. I think Coeur d'Alene had 200. Okay, most races in a traditional regular year, you get 40 total. That's between men and women. So what's happening now, and obviously they're going to give athletes a chance to, from what I'm hearing, they're going to give athletes a chance to defer all the way to 2022, 2023, or 2024 to compete in Kona. I get what they were doing. Honestly, I think they were trying to fill the pier, where they have transition. They were trying to fill it to make money off the race. But they're also probably thinking, because it's thinking like $1,200 as an entry for a Kona slot, and most people are going to pay it on right there. So they're making extra money. But what's going to happen is that there's only so many bikes they can fit on that pier, and so I think they're going to, even in races next year. Here's my prediction: races that happen later this year and all of next year because of the backlog and how many people they have registered for these races. Because remember, no one raced it last year, and now no one's going to race it this year. And they're giving, not giving away land. They're allocated, a huge, increased number of slots. I think you're going to have the option when you race, and obviously I can't confirm this, they're going to give you the option this year and next year to basically say, you can, if you qualify, let's say you qualify next year at, Ironman Wisconsin in June. They'll basically say you can go this year or you can go next year. Take your pick. Or maybe even the year down the line. Which I think, for you and I, that might be our best bet, because then we could, put like a really solid 1 year block in. You and I can both qualify for Kona. Then we can get up the stones to fly for the 3 years. We can take, or we can start driving courses, right? Or we can take the year 2020 50 slot. We can start in January. We can make our way out to California. We can take a boat and get all the way there, and then take the rest of the year off. So maybe that'll give us some time. But yeah, in all seriousness, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things I think for people to think about in terms of races getting adjusted and moved, and obviously I think
maybe
with that,
teleport by then, man.
right, dude? You never know, man. You'll be paying with cryptocurrency, I think, for your Kona slot by then. You will at least. So yeah, I think it's there's gonna be a lot of moving parts here later this year, so we'll wait and see what those are here in the next few days as they give out those, and hopefully move. Or either move some professional fields over to different races, or at least, provide them, again, an opportunity, because that's how they make their living, right? They make their living by racing. And a lot of athletes, specifically the higher end pros, like they make more money off their appearance in Kona from their sponsors than they do with race winnings. You know, and like that's how they pay their bills. A lot of professionals coach. That's how they make their bills. Some professionals still work, but a lot of them make it, you know, from sponsors, you know, and their YouTube channels or whatever like that. So they're gonna have to provide them with an avenue to make money, and to stay relevant. Because if you're not racing, it's hard to stay relevant unless, you know, you become like a YouTube star like Lionel Sanders.
Yeah. Like how many races these days even have pros? I mean, Chat doesn't, right?
Not this year.
Wisconsin every other year, men, women type thing.
It did, yeah, but it's not going to have any this year.
Like where are they racing these days?
Europe, and then I think some of the new races like Ironman California, I think it's going to have a pro field.
I wonder how many pros are actually struggling right now because of all
I'm
that.
sure a lot of them. That's why you see them working very, very hard on YouTube. You know, it's like to have like, you know, a following, but I'm sure a lot of them are struggling, you know, to make ends meet. So yeah, but you know, then you have all the Europe races are going on. Like you had Frankfurt last week and you got Ironman Copenhagen this weekend, which should have a pretty decent field. I'm hoping he's going to race it, but it'll be interesting to see if Blumenfeld races. He's the guy who won the Olympics in the Olympic distance, and then said now his next goal is to win Kona. Oh, like I think like 48 hours after he won the gold, he was back like training for Kona. Oh. Like just no stop. One of the guys from Norway. So anyway,
Australia's been stripped, right? They're not doing anything over there, I don't think. Isn't that why they moved St. George?
No, I mean, St. George was going to happen the year before, and they just bumped it again this year.
But I mean, next year.
Next year was New Zealand.
Well, they're screwed.
Yeah,
too.
they're not.
Those countries poor. I feel bad, man.
Yeah, they're
getting hammered over.
They're not having anybody in there. So, but honestly, like, and I think, you know, what it comes down to is just the how they're going to provide more opportunities for these athletes to race, and hopefully, like you said, take them a paycheck. But you know, you never know what's going to happen with Clash. Race series, they're going to have like big races to end the year. That's funny. Like you haven't heard like much of anything out of them this year. With everybody thought this was like their time to like take the cake and take some, you know, some stock away from Ironman and these big races. And I literally haven't heard anything. Like no one really talks about them anymore. Like they really didn't put much of a dent in anything. And honestly, I have to think that they lost a significant amount of money putting on that production and paying those professionals when they had such a very small age group race.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I know they're bringing it back. And but weren't they supposed to have several racetrack type things?
I think they were working on it, but listen,
they're very tied limited to NASCAR, actually.
Yeah, it's very limited though. There's not like a billion racetracks to go around.
Well, there's a lot. They don't know.
Would you like to race on a racetrack? I mean, we did back at the lab.
Yeah, we didn't really race there. They didn't race at a racetrack down there, other than the pros did. But
there were some just did like one or two
went
laps
through the parking lot.
They went out on like the regular field.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
Question for you.
From the group?
No, for you personally.
Okay.
You got what, 6 weeks left, Ironman Chattanooga?
It's 5.5.
Okay, not that you're counting. 5.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you get a lot of people in what I would call countdown mode. You got Wisconsin, you got Maryland, Chattanooga, California, Indiana, Texas. You don't have Kona anymore, but you have, and then like that's not even to mention like stuff in November. Right. You have a lot coming.
Yeah, a lot of halves are out there.
A lot of halves are out there. It's about to be like the craziest 6 weeks of the year. You got 5.5 weeks left.
Correct.
To Kona. You just did the body
Kona?
Or to your Kona, right? It's your race. It's your Kona. To Ironman Chattanooga, you just did your fat check, your body fat check, your calipers. What is the number one thing you're going to focus on between now and when you taper going into Chattanooga?
Cycling.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, I was leaving the office yesterday, and you were there on the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because cycling has always been your self-confessed strength, right? It's the one that you it's the one you tend to, you know, not shy away from, but it's the one if you're gonna short it, it's the cycling.
Yeah. I think it's because, you know, over the last year, while I haven't really been, maybe this year and like last year, I really didn't train much, but I did mostly running, and I've been throwing out some quasi-longish runs throughout the year. My legs feel pretty good about the run. I don't know where else I can take that right now, and especially if I can't get off the bike and run. So I did the I've been doing some, I've done Wisconsin course a couple times, couple loops over the summer, a little longer, but I didn't really push it. And, but it's a hefty ride, if you might,
It is a hefty ride.
So, but I don't quite feel there yet, but I think I can turn it up and get to a place with my bike if I get more consistent. I'm gonna really do some frequent 1.5 to 2 hours, and then drop in a little longer riding on the weekend type of deal. I don't think I'm gonna get crazy with my 6-hour type stuff, but I think I need to build frequency right now. And a close second to that, honestly, is swimming, just because I've been up and down with that. I felt pretty good about it a week and a half ago, but now I'm a little bit out of the pool, so I want to really get a lot of swim frequency too. And I just want to, because I'm at a point now where I got to almost take my shot on the run.
Take your licks. See if
yeah,
tough it out. Listen, one of in a lot of the athletes that we work with, either they know this because they've worked this before through 70.3 and Ironman cycles. Yeah, I am specifically as a coach, I'm a huge proponent of run frequency. I'm the biggest fan of it from, whenever your quote unquote season ends, then November, December, January, February, March, April, even like May, June, people, that's always my biggest issue and gripe with athletes that just take off and are lazy for what I would consider is the greatest time of year to train, especially with running, which is, the fall and winter months, because it ain't no fun running outside right now. It's absolutely miserable. And it takes such a long period of time to build up the run fitness and run durability that you want to race well in long course racing. And that's one of those things you can hold on to your long runs with an every other week long run, but it takes such a long time to get it and to do it the right way to be able to hold it that you have to do it for, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Having said that, what it also does is it takes a while to unload. Right. And so if you're looking at your last 2 to 5 weeks, and this is only if you put a whole lot of running in, now is the time where you can actually go down. I had this conversation with an athlete that's been on the podium at Kona, friend of the cast. And we talked about this athlete's run volume was 50 to 60 miles a week right now. Obviously very, very, very high level athlete, trying to probably win overall and obviously go back to Kona. And I said, I said this close to, like you said, 5.5 weeks. And I was in my opinion, and that's probably over, 6 runs a week. In my opinion, you drop that down to 4 to 5 runs a week and you go from doing 60 miles to doing 40 to 45, you leave a tempo run in the middle, and then, on the weekends, add in your longer run and then just bike more. Because the thing is cycling, you can get away with putting in a lot more volume because you're going to recover a lot quicker because it's non-load bearing. It's not as hard on your bike. Same with swimming. So many people barely ever swim and then they come into taper and they just give up swimming. Well, the worse swimmer you are, the more you have to swim to keep the feel for the water. And so many athletes totally lose any feel for the water they might have by basically not swimming at all the last 2 weeks. We usually up the swimming, right? Because most people and most athletes need to keep that feel for the water. And most people, it's their weakest. So they don't really you don't really deserve a taper in the swim because you're still trying to get enough fitness.
Right.
Same goes for a lot of people when it comes to cycling is that, you can do a 5-hour, one of my best rides ever, I think, was at Ironman, Wisconsin, the last time you and I did it together. I think I did a 5:20 something or a 5:30. 9 days before that, I did a 5.5 hard ride. I didn't run as much, but I was swimming a lot, but I was still riding because, it was a shorter block that I had done at that point because Hayden was just born. He was in the NICU and it was just kind of all of them the trainer. But I was able to recover in 2 days. However, if you're asking yourself to go on a 3-hour run 2 weeks out, that's probably going to leave you shelled for maybe even 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. If you have that, especially if you're doing any kind of intensity. But also, and I've had athletes bring this up to me in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They're hey, I see that you've dropped a run, or you've shortened up some of the runs that you're having me do during the week. Why is that? And I'm have you been outside? Like, it's unbelievably hot. Like, and if you think about, and we always talk about, stress versus stress, but 16 and a half hours of training, which is a big jump in May or October, feels a hell of a lot different on the body than 16 hours in July, August, and September. Okay, not all hours are created equal. Not all stress points are created equal. We've used this example like a billion times, but you could go out in February and run 14 miles. So you do it in 2 hours. You could probably get away with it on one bottle of water with a handheld and like some noon, like barely taking any calories. You don't probably need any goo, and just kind of like cruising along because the weather is perfect. It's cool. It's crisp. There's no wind. There's no humidity. There's no dew point. Okay, take that exact run with that exact fitness and place it in August. 100-degree heat, maybe even higher heat index, super high humidity, super high dew point. Are you going to feel the same when it's over? Nope. No, you're not. Right. And so that is like a huge reason why people say, oh, well, why am I running so much or swimming so much or biking so much, like when I'm so far out from a race, like, well, listen, like you should always be training for something. Like time off is time off, but you should always be at least focused, on something. Yes, there's times to relax. Yes, there's times like, take periods of choice, but to the same extent, like those really crucial months are where you build the fitness to where it gives you some like leeway on what to draw back and what to push forward. And the closer you get to race, like you're saying, like pushing forward, with cycling, you said, the run is going to be, you're going to have to like lay your cards out and just kind of see what you can do on that. But, for the most part, if you've put in like a lot of consistent running, like you can hold on to those long runs. Like you're, training your body over weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months to handle 30 to 50 mile run weeks or, 7-8 hours on your feet run lights. That's not going to go away overnight. As long as you keep like, one long run every other week, you don't have to go that. It allows your body to kind of limit the stress or at least focus the stress to where it's not absolutely crushing your body like, a 17-hour week right now versus a 17-hour week. That's why, if you can get like an extra swim in that's inside or extra bike that's inside the trainer, still get fitter, still get, gain some fitness, still try to prime things, but not be out running, when it's absolutely destroying your body, or take some of your runs to your treadmill. It's like you can hold on to those things. I know a lot of athletes that perform at a super high level that run on the treadmill like once a week and it's their longer and the rest of them are inside because it's easier on their body. It's easier to do. They can do it quickly. There's just a lot of things to think about when you start to shed things going into a big race. It's obviously about how much you shed. You shouldn't shed all of your intensity. That's another thing people do when they come into, tapering or being like, I'm trying to give away, all my intensity. Like I don't want to work too hard. Like, yes, you do. Like you want to keep, like you don't want all that to go dormant, and get lazy. And so people think that their legs never woke up on race days because they raced stale. Like you have to keep some of the intensity there. And for a lot of people, for 70.3s, I generally say like you shouldn't need really a day off going into it. Ironman, like the week of, I'm all about like, 2, sometimes even 3 days off because it's just such a long day. And your build has probably been so significant that you're going to take longer to build in. But, focus on the things you can focus on. And obviously, if your focus needs to be swimming and cycling, then more power to you. We've got athletes that, because their schedule like do like 5 and 6 day tapers, because, again, like your taper should be, should reflect your work, right? How much work you were able to get in. If you haven't worked a ton, then you don't need 3 weeks. Like you're just detraining. What tapering is for is to unload all of the work that you did and show it. And so it should be, very symbiotic of the amount of work that you completed, not just taking a 3-week taper to take one. And you want to stay, primed and ready to go. You want to still keep some tension. You want to be, stale and frail.
Yeah, that was a great point about the cycling, because I think a lot of people, including me, will get on that trainer and just be like, man, I'm flat. But you got to push it. I think you got to wake it up, man. And there's a lot of times we go out on these long rides and stuff, and you just don't feel it until you push it a little bit. And that kind of takes you up a notch, and it just makes things feel better and kind of wakes up the blood and all that kind of thing. Now, back to this thing. I've done on several Ironman, and I've spectated probably at least twice that many. And you know what I see? People walking on the run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's all, I don't, I mean, I've trained well up for runs before on Ironman, and it's just not made a difference. So I keep thinking about that. It's like, if you can't get out of the water and get off the bike in a place to run, then all the running in the world is not going to really matter. Within reason, I think running can help your cycling, just the strength of the legs and that, but I think cycling translates a lot more to running.
For sure.
And so does swimming, for that matter, with the core work and all that kind of stuff. So for me, as I said, there's been several long runs over the course of this year. And ever since run camp last fall, and then this spring, I should say, done a lot. I've been running, I feel okay in that realm. So that's the way I look at it, is like, man, so many people worry, the run, and they just can't get it done. They can't even run it, let alone, run it well. So for me, it's, it's almost like you said, it's sort of like hedging your bet a little bit, and you're going to double down on the first two events and then hope that last one comes in, because, I think the odds of it are better. You can train perfectly and that run still never comes together. So, it's a little bit of a mystery. And I think if I can be stronger out of the water and off the bike, that'll give me a little more flexibility to kind of ease into my run. I won't feel the pressure of trying to run a great race, or having to run a great race to get what I want to get, so it'll be there just sitting there waiting for me to kind of, just unfold, and you just never know. If you handle that run in a good way, you could end up having a strong back half. But if you come out with a lot of pressure on you and trying to really do something you maybe not capable of, it can really destroy how that goes.
When it comes to looking, and again, this is like the polar opposite of like, training plans you get, or like the Be Iron Fit training plan that has like 3-hour runs in it. And these like, to me, when you're looking at racing or trying to do the best you can in a full, no matter how many times you've done it, is I would much rather go into a full, and the fulls I've done the best at, I've gone into it knowing that I've been able to run the best 17 to 18. Like I can run a fast 17 to 18 miles. Going into those races, that's when I've done my best. Now, I've also done races where I've hit like 20, 21 miles in training, done like a whole lot of volume. It wasn't any better. And what happens with athletes is that there's a huge difference, and yeah, stress is stress, but there's a huge difference in what you're doing from a physiological standpoint and how you're putting together pieces of fitness, from going out and running, a fast 17 to 18 miles versus getting out and slogging through 3. If you're having to slog through or push through or, grind your way through a 3-hour run, the fitness gain you're going to get from that is not that much, because you're just using the fitness that you have to just barely kind of make it through with an effort level that's not at a zone and a pace that's going to really elicit like this gigantic response. And then on the flip side of it, the recovery time that you're going to have to ask from your body on the Monday and the Tuesday and the Wednesday after that, maybe even the Thursday, you're missing out on 4 days of really, really, really great opportunities to get fitter and to get faster. If you're able to go out and run a fast 17, 18 miles, you're probably going to, because that's what you see in the back half of the marathon. People might have the aerobic energy. Everybody's talking, right? Like the last, people who are running really slowly or walking, they're all having conversations, right? It's not an aerobic deficit or a lack of fitness. It's a strength and muscular lack of being able to hold form and hold your body up long enough to actually run, right? And that's why people stop to walk, or that's why people slow down. Again, we say all the time, it's not about how fast you go, it's about who slows down the least. So when you're going through and you're seeing people, like, it's not an aerobic thing. It's a muscle thing. It's for most people, it's like their skeletal system just can't hold their body. Their run form starts to degrade. They just start to go down and down and down. That's in my opinion, my experience with coaching athletes is that's when they do the best, is when they run really fast, or they get up to a point where they can run a fast 17, 18 miles. Again, at the end of a 16 to 17 an hour a week, and the day before was a 5.5, 6 hour hard ride, where they're, again, capping off a big week. It's not that they're, again, that's why we taper, right? Like everyone looks at like singular workouts as like the one and done. They don't look at like the 5 or 6 days or the 3 weeks prior, like the fatigue that you're doing it under, even if your body's adapting, recovering well, the fitness that you're stringing together, the fatigue that you're stringing together, like, and then you're able to do that after putting in like, 2 weeks worth of hard work. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Like 2 weeks worth of work. Yes, it was the same day, but yeah, pretty sure I can swim 2.4, ride 112, and then go run really well off this. Having had an entire week of fatigue, loading up. And that's why, like, I always cringe when I work with athletes and I look through their training in the past and I see like 2 hours and 45-minute run and 3 hour, quote unquote, runs. A lot of them are run walks. A lot of them take like huge walk breaks because it's so effing hard to run that long. Like, you can see a lot of the pros now too. Like they're not going back to like running less. And yes, they cover a lot longer distance. Like, going, look at Patrick Lang. His longest run before Tulsa that he won, he's arguably one of the best long course runners on the planet. His long run was like an hour and like 40 minutes. Obviously he's probably covering, like 17 miles, but still, like, he's around that time range. But for some reason, age groupers, whether it's because there's just bad training plans or just bad advice, or they just think that I have to cover the distance in training, like you're beating up your body when the point is to not beat up your body, is to allow it the opportunity to get stronger and fitter and faster. Like, I think people like just stop thinking about the phrase faster. The point is to go from point A to point B the fastest, okay? Not the slowest, the fastest. And that looks the same and trains the same, whether you're a 9-hour finisher or a 16-hour finisher. It's about getting from point A to point B the fastest. It's not about practicing week after week after week after week. This is my current level of fitness. I'm a 10-minute miler. I hope I can get to be, I just want to take this 10-minute mile and I want to do it for 3 hours. You're just practicing your 10-minute mile. You're not getting fitter. Like, we had an athlete yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's been a long week. Yesterday, text me, let's do an Ironman Wisconsin. And it was an email she sent, and she was like, I know you're not, you don't like to beat on heart rate all the time. And I look at it, but I don't obsess about it anymore. And she was like, it's the humidity was high and the dew point was high, and I looked at my pace and it was so much quicker than what I'm used to with a lower heart rate. And she was like, I just wanted to, to check in and see, like what I was like, yeah, that's called peaking. That's what's supposed to be happening. Faster with less effort, not more effort to go farther at the same pace. Like, that's not what you should be practicing. And that's what happens when you get yourself in, when athletes get themselves into this repetitive nature of 2-hour run, 2:15 run, 2:30 run, 2:45 run, with like, wait a minute, like where are you getting opportunities? Where are you manipulating the stress? Are you just like, basically what I see is, when I see things laid out like that, is you're just preparing your body to be on course for the distance. Mm-hmm. You're not practicing covering the distance as quickly as possible. And for some people, that's totally fine. Like that's their prerogative. That's their focus. That's what they've accepted. Totally fine. That's your life. Do it. But at the same time,
it's all relative, though.
It's all very relative. But at the same point, like, if you train, like I would argue, instead of training for a year, because mostly all you're going to do is like just train to be slower and finish for a longer period of time. Mm-hmm. If you've got 30 weeks, then I would say spend 22 of those weeks trying to become the absolute fastest 70.3 athlete you can possibly be. And then spend the last 6 to 7 weeks bridging up the distance. Try to get faster first and then take the fast and turn it into far. Like, because guess what? It's going to take you less time to go farther than it did before. But most people, like, they have this obsession with Ironman training for such long periods of time, and it's like, I don't understand it. It's frustrating because that's also why you see so many athletes regress and get unmotivated and beat themselves into the ground.
Yeah.
Because it's also such a long-term view. They don't see long-term success, and their race is over. They take like 2 months off, detrain, lose fitness, and then basically start not start back at square one, but start back but beyond, or they've regressed even more, and it takes another 2 months to get back going again. So they just kind of if you're a person who like repetitively has, and you've trained and stuck to the same cycle, and you still see the same time after time after time, or you get slower, like that's it. Like that's what's happening. Like you're too focused on Ironman all the time to allow your body. So again, like honestly, stop focusing on doing the full for the whole year and that be your ultimate focus, and focus on being the absolute like fastest wins. That's what fast and fit. That's what wins races. It's not who can go slowest the longest. Like that's still endurance races, 100-mile runs, 100-mile rides, 20-mile swims. It's not about who can go slowest the longest. It's about who can go the quickest, who has the best fitness. And that's something you have to work on. Not year round, yes, but you need to take a break for sure. But I swear, if most athletes would stick to that, if I'm doing a full 45 weeks out of the year, I'm going to focus on being the fastest 70.3 athlete I can be. And then I'll just take 10 weeks and be the best full athlete I can be. Swear to you, put money on it. I'll bet you a payday and a Coke, you'll be faster. 2 paydays and 2 Cokes. Cherry Coke.
I'm actually kind of excited to see what ends up happening out there with me, to be honest. I mean, like kind of in a curious way, because this has been a bizarre year and maybe a year and a half. And like we talked about the relay half that I did in Ohio, right? And I wasn't sure where I was for that. I'm like, I'll go out and give it a shot. And I was actually pretty happy with my performance considering the day and everything, and hadn't raced or really pushed anything that far in a long time. And like we talked about, that's 13 miles. And if I slow that down a little bit, I probably got a pretty decent 17 miles in me or whatever. And especially if the weather isn't that brutal. I mean, it could very well be, but to me, that was 8 weeks out or 9 weeks out from Chattanooga. And I think, well, I'm definitely in that ballpark is what I felt like. And I held up pretty good and I recovered really well. It didn't bother me. So I was like, okay, I'm good there. So now it's all about sort of hanging around there. And like you said, I just think that for me to try to focus on really getting faster with my run at this point in the game was kind of I don't know if that's really the best idea, but if I can get faster, I know I can get faster on my bike in 5 or 6 weeks, or at least back up to my potential,
and not regress because you're not going to get hurt, right? Or you're not going to That was something that one of the best advice Lee Wilson ever gave me when I was. And
he gives a lot of good advice.
He does
if he's
give a lot of good
He's
advice.
Still a sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. National Running Company owner, and I texted him before I did Country Music Marathon. This is like back in 2012. You did the half, I think, that day.
Yep.
And I had just come off doing nothing. I was in New Gulf Coast 2 weeks after.
Nothing.
I didn't nothing. I was in okay shape, but I hadn't run that much. I had Achilles tendonitis. I was going to get dry needling for. It was insanely painful. But I became again, it's like 2012 before dry needling was like mainstream. It hurts so bad. But it worked. And so I was battling Achilles tendonitis. I wasn't running a ton, but signed up for Country Music Marathon. And, I texted him like a week before, 2 weeks before. I was like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing a 16 mile today just to see if I can, get ready. He was like, don't. 10 to 12. You got what you got. And I was like, okay, sure. But I was like, I had speed at that point. Like I hadn't done long runs, but I had speed. And I was like, all right, I can maybe do this. And I did. Like I took like the first half marathon like insanely slow, but I negative split it. It's like still one of my fastest half marathons ever. Was my back half marathon that on that course I did it like at like 7:20s.
Sweet.
It was on a long run of like 13 or 14. Not to like say that not having long runs are are great, but like it was better for me to go into that. It was like perfect conditions. It was like rainy and cool. Like I wore like a tri-kit that was like perfect. But that was it. And obviously I paced it with it to start off, but it was like I just needed like speed that day. I could hold on to how much pain it was to like not walk. But I wanted to get there as quickly as possible so it was over. You know, I just think that's one of those things that people tend to not think about. They think of Ironman as long and slow and relaxed and everything. Like, no, the point is to get done as quickly as possible. Like, yes, it's to finish the race, but hey, finishing the race quicker is always a win. Like, and that's something that I think people, when they look at training or sometimes like, you know, they do like way too much. You know, we, for the most part, do like a polarized approach, especially in running. It's more about frequency and it's about, you know, smashing yourself. But, you know, you work really, 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 really hard, you know, to be fast and to get fit and to increase your power and to decrease your pace and, you know, and decrease your heart rate over faster paces and to get faster in the pool. You know, they're like, you know, why am I working so hard? You know, this is the Ironman. I'm like, yeah, the goal is to be fit, right? This is to be like really, 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 really fit. It's not just to do things that take forever as slowly as long as possible. Like, oh, well, you know, someone asks you, hey, you know what, John, you can get done with your workday in 4 hours, you know, if you want to and do it this way, or you can just stick to the 8-hour workday plan. It's be long. It's like, 4, please. Like right now, I want to do it in 4 hours. No one's going to take the 8-hour out. They're going to take the 4 hour out because getting done with these quicker usually is a little bit more fun and rewarding. That's how Ironman training should be. So I will say it again, 2 Cokes, 2 paydays. Train like you want to be the best, fastest 70.3 athlete that you can ever be, and then give yourself 8 weeks, and I swear you will be a much better Ironman athlete having trained like that. That's like sometimes when I ask hey, you know, they're training buddies, or you know, they're part of, you know, the local or the Ironman Facebook. They're like, oh, there's all these people, you know, 3 months out from race day, you know, and they're dropping, you know, they're doing like 6.5 hour rides and 10-mile runs off the bike. And like, I feel like I'm behind. I'm like, you're not behind. You're getting faster while they're just practicing being the same speed. And honestly, like, that's just like, it's taken them probably 2 or 3 days to recover from that. Like, meanwhile, Monday through Friday, you're, you know, hammering on the bike twice. You're hopping in the pool and hammering it. Like, that's the thing, is like people get so enamored with like a screenshot. Like, screenshots are the most misleading things on the planet with people's workouts. Like, how did they swim? Did they just noodle around? They probably swam once that week. They probably did a 2,000 straight with fins. Then they get out of the water. They probably did 2 1-hour rides and just kind of cruised around with their group and, you know, had cake and cupcakes at the group stop. They probably ran twice, and then they went out and rode 6 hours. Like, no thanks. I'd rather ride hard 4.5 on the weekend, run a good, you know, 2 hours, maybe even a split run, and then Monday through Friday, get some work done, right? And be a faster, fitter, stronger athlete. Don't focus so much on, hey, I wonder how long I can stay on course this time, and at least be aerobically fit. It's not like, again, when you look at people in the back half of the marathon, they slow down. 70.3 is I think the best way to look at it, because people slow themselves down because they can't anaerobically keep up because they're trying to race it, right? Fulls, it's because they can't run any longer. Like, oh, well, but that's why I got to do 3-hour runs.
Or can they?
Or you're just going to be, or can they? Going back to the, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, dude, if I catch you walking at Ironman Chattanooga, I'm calling you out.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, I'm walking.
You already going to go back.
100%.
You're going back.
I have a strategy. I'm not going to give it up because there's too many people listening.
Too many key people listening.
I'm brewing a strategy, but I love what you said, man. It's like you got to. I mean, I do think that it hurts, you know, like to try and get it done as fast as you can is not the easy way out. It's not to slow down and walk the whole thing, because I think it's also about recognizing what that pain is all about. You know, some pains, granted, they're dangerous pains, and you shouldn't run through them or what have you. Something does really happen or what have you, but most of the time it's just really kind of annoying, and it just hurts to keep going. But you know, that's your call, man. You know, I remember my first Ironman at Wisconsin, dude. I got off that bike. I could not walk. Like, I was just walking like Herman Munster. Every single step of that marathon hurt. Every single one. It wasn't pretty, but I really, just dug deep and it worked. And I've had other, since then, there's been times when I've gotten through that first loop feeling pretty good. And then about 13, 14 miles in, it starts giving me that pain again. That's the pain that you just do not want to have, but it's going to come at some point and you got to do something with it. You can't just give into it. I mean, the one time at Louisville, we raced that super hot race. I felt like I was literally going to faint or like pass out or die maybe. So that's a different situation. But if it's like, if your feet hurt a little bit or your hips are tired,
keep going.
Keep going.
Because once you start to walk and relieve that pain,
yeah,
you ain't running again.
it feels so good.
It does.
To walk.
It is it's like, seriously, it is one of the.
It's like you sat in a recliner on the move.
It's better than that. Dude.
It is better.
It's like you're riding with me and you want to pee. And I make you wait for 3 more hours, and you're like race to the gas station urinal, and then you pee, and you're like, oh, this is the greatest feeling ever, like it's like that unspoken, sigh you get in the stall of the urinal. You're like, that's it, that's what it feels like. It is the greatest feeling of relief ever to walk in a marathon, and it is the most excruciating pain ever to try and start again. Because your body's like, no, why? Things feel good. Why is this? No, why? No, I'm not running again. You told me we were done running. We're done running. We can shuffle run and we can, fall forward quickly with our cadence, but we ain't running anymore, John. And so that's like, if you want to be done quicker, right? And just keep running. Like if you want the pain over, then just keep going at your current speed. It'll be done. Because just think about it. If you've got 6 miles left, 6 miles.
Yep.
And you're doing 10 minute miles. First of all, stop considering and take into account you're going to walk 15-minute miles. You ain't, okay? That's speed walking. You're going to do like 16 and a half, 17. When you see people do like 14-minute miles, it's because they probably ran half of it and walked the other half. You're running 10-minute miles, okay? You got 6.2 left, right? You're like, you finally just give up and you're like, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And you start walking. You're going to walk 16, probably we'll call it 16-minute miles. You're giving up 6 minutes a mile. 3.2, you just lost 40 minutes. 40 minutes longer you were on course. 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an insane amount of time to stay at. Like that's just obviously think about that again, like we talk about, we talked about it Monday about being patient. That's also just a perfect example of like giving away time on the bike or giving away time on the run that you misplaced and spent incorrectly on the bike. Like if you're going to go from doing 10-minute miles, and that's just like, listen, 70% of the people that are going to be out there racing aren't going to make it to mile 20 before they walk. And that's generous, right? Making it to mile 20. We're talking, most people make it to like mile 16 or 17. Let's say you start walking at mile 16, you got 10 miles left, over an hour longer, having done the same pace you're going to be on. Like that's your swim time, right? That you just basically like put back on the course. Like, so just think about those things when, again, like, neither one of us advocate for, running through an injury, but dude, it's going to suck. The last 8 miles are absolutely going to suck, but it will suck less for a less amount of time if you just continue to run. Like that's just like one of those things. You have to tell people ahead of time, listen, man, it's going to suck. Because if you at least prepare for it, I'm like, you know what, just keep moving. You're not hurting yourself, right? For the most part, hopefully. If you do feel like you're hurting yourself, then stop. But for the most part, it's just uncomfortable. It just sucks, right? It's just not fun. But you know what? It's more fun being done quicker.
Yeah. And there's a heck of a lot of long-term benefit in finishing under 13 hours versus under 12 hours or 14 or under 12 or under 13 or whatever. Like 1 hour difference in that regard.
You get better snacks in the tent.
Oh man, you got a lot of stuff, but I mean, it sticks with you because you'll be proud of that. I think if you held on, I mean, that's the other thing. It's sort of like, it's real easy to just flip that off switch, but you don't sign up for this to flip the off switch really.
I'll tell you this, and I'll be totally honest with you. The races that I am the most proud of have nothing to do with my time. they have everything to do with my refusal to give in to the amount of pain that I was in. Not because I'm some, tough, hardcore David Goggins character, because you know me, I'm the exact opposite. I'm more of like a Bryan Adams meets, like personal trainer type guy.
Bryan Adams.
I'm not that soft. Who knows? Bryan Adams might be pretty tough. I don't know. He just, has soft songs. Maybe I'm like, Michael Bolton meets Hulk Hogan kind of guy. Same hair length, but it's not about how tough or how courageous I am. It's the voice that you hear that says stop, or you can't, or there's nothing wrong with giving in right now, but you think about it, it's the repercussions afterwards. Like the races that I've been the most proud of are the ones where I laid down my head that night when I thought about my race and I was proud of what I did. The ones that I've been the least and most disappointed are the ones where I think inherently you could have kept going, man. You just didn't. You didn't have it today. You didn't have it physically. Mm-hmm. You just didn't have the cojones that day to just grit it the F out, right? To just absorb that pain, and you took the easy way and you walked for a second, then you ran again, or you just slowed down to, you found that end of the throttle and you just kind of dialed the back some because you didn't want to suck it up today. Those are the races where I just don't, it's those are the races that still eat at me, right? Because you never know what kind of fitness you have today, but in order to find your ultimate level of fitness, you have to push it to the brink. And that's so if you find yourself being really proud of yourself, honestly, and that's all that matters. Like, that's why, like I just said, when I look back at the races that I've been the most proud of and the ones that stuck with me, they have nothing to do with where I placed or how well I did, or if it was a PR. Did I overcome a feeling and a thought of that was a negative thought, or a thought to walk, or a self-sabotage, just let it go today, because those stick with you for a long time. Those are the ones you remember. The ones that you crush and you're like, yeah, because all you want to do is do a better one, right? And then you're going to be chasing that one. Yeah. It's the one. So it's telling you, start doing them. Start preparing now for the mental warfare that will happen come that first loop of the run, if you're doing a full, or the first loop of your, the first 6-7 miles of 70.3. Start figuring out the phrases you're going to use to tell yourself, I'm not stopping. Or that it's really not just pain, it's super uncomfortable, right? Because we've talked about that before. It's like getting a tattoo. It's not painful. It's just really annoyingly uncomfortable. Like, you want it to stop, but you're like, crap, I can endure this for like another 2 or 3 hours. Like, you don't want to, which is the worst part, because you can, right? Like, because it's like, I know I can take this, but God, is it going to take a lot of focus, right? And a whole lot of back sweat to focus to make myself, endure this for a long period of time. Start that now. Start going through your checklist of what am I going to say? If I see somebody on course, what do I want them to tell me? And to remind me of, need to, put some initials on my hand or remind me of words or phrases that don't stop and remember this, or it's hurt before, signs, whatever it is. Start that now, because the pain, no matter how fast or how slow you go, the pain is inevitable. It is coming. And so just to accept that, but now try and mentally and emotionally prepare for that can honestly really set you up for a really great race day.
I love it, dude.
Man,
I agree.
We suck. To be honest with you guys, we hopped on the podcast and we thought, man, you think we can kind of get away with a 20-minute cast? I was like, yeah, we could just take a sign on and tell people we're going to take the day off and just log off. He's like, hey, we got to come back tomorrow. I was like, damn, we're not doing that. And here we are, an hour in. Just kind of suck it up, keep going, put your shoes on. Hopefully you got something beneficial from today's cast. If not, we got 504 other ones that you could probably find something beneficial. There's always a worst, there's always a best. As always, we appreciate you, we love you. If you're racing this weekend, best of luck. Do your best and leave the rest. Hop over our website, c26triathlon.com, and is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. As usual, come September, we always get a huge influx of requests for new athletes, and 2 people hop in the club this week. It's an ongoing thing. It's never too late, so hop on the coaching site and check out our roster of coaches. You can check out the club membership. If you have any questions about the awesome camps that we do, or coming and visiting the hub, getting a swim analysis, or staying in the condo, you can email Summer. She is at c26operations@gmail.com. If you need anything from Mike, or you would like a visual feel of a body fat test, you can reach out to him. He is at crushingiron@gmail.com. Or if you need to hear me sing your Bryan Adams song, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, we did it, man. We did it, dude. Thank you, Coach.